Heavy rains swept across Haiti and the Dominican Republic as Tropical Storm Emily, which had earlier stalled to the south of the islands, moved slowly over the southwestern part of Haiti. Emily later disintegrated into a low-pressure system, sparing Haiti the worst so far. However, residents remain uneasy as rain continues and swollen rivers threaten to flood homes. In Haiti's capital, where tens of thousands of people have been living in tent camps since the January 2010 earthquake, there was reportedly little damage. However, there remains a risk of several villages in the countryside flooding. Authorities fear that heavy rains could affect the refugee camps, where thousands of families have lived since the January 2010 earthquake, and cause an increase of the cholera epidemic due to possible floods. Last November, Hurricane Thomas caused widespread flooding, unleashing a cholera epidemic that killed hundreds and infected some 20,000 people. With the passing of Tropical Storm Emily, residents of the Fond St. Jacques community in St. Lucia are calling on the government to quicken reconstruction efforts in the area. Persons from the neighborhood say that enough is not being done to fix the community in the aftermath of Hurricane Thomas last year, and the community cannot handle another disaster.
Residents of the Fond St. Jacques community say they are frustrated and running out of patience. They maintain enough has not been done in the aftermath of Hurricane Thomas to restore their community to safety. The community was one of the most affected, with several deaths recorded after Hurricane Thomas damaged the island last year. Residents say although promises were made, people who were supposed to be relocated are yet to be removed, and proper desilting of the river has not been done. One resident, Melvin Smith, says the community cannot handle another natural disaster and are extremely fearful whenever there is heavy rain.
We can't handle another disaster because I myself, whenever I hear tropical depression or the tropical wave, it will strengthen to tropical storm or hurricane. I myself, I get frightened because I was hit by a hurricane last year. I lose everything, and now I'm just picking up. So I myself cannot afford to get hit by another hurricane or storm or depression, how it is. Because around here, whenever the people hear rain, people are already on the move, you know. People don't stay and think like they'll stay in that house there, they will stay in that one there. People move. The people in that house there, they didn't stay there. They had to move. People in that house across there, everybody had to move. Try and reach in front of the river rather than being at the back of the river. So right now we pleading to people in the authorities to try and do something for the community.
Parliamentary Representative Harold Dalsaw says not only has the Fond St. Jacques area been overlooked, but the entire Soufrière community has been neglected. He says this neglect is evidenced by the damaged roads and infrastructure all over the community. He described the situation as critical and says if something is not done soon, another natural disaster can cause untold damage.
As evidenced by the pile of sand just behind me there, the deplorable conditions of the road right in front of me, and if you were to tour Soufrière and pass by the Soufrière hospital and walk the streets of Soufrière and walk along courts and go around new development, that neglect after Thomas would have only done worse for this community if only we were not spared by whatever Emily would have brought to us again.
In direct contradiction, Chief Engineer Lester Arnold says major reconstruction efforts have taken place in that community and throughout Soufrière area.
It all depends on what you deem to be insufficient. We did quite a bit of work has been done at Fond St. Jacques in terms of clearing the river with all of the logs and everything. Some of the silting has been done and whatnot. All of the culverts in that area is also opened up. So a fair amount of work has been done. I'm not saying that we don't plan on doing more, but I mean, when you look at the extent of damages to Fond St. Jacques, it was extensive, and I mean, it will take some time before everything is done inside of there.
Soufrière was heavily impacted during the passage of Hurricane Thomas on October 30th, 2009. Several residents remain missing, their bodies never recovered, while others perished in the flood waters and mudslides. Sarah Peter, HTS News, Channel 4.
Liat has resumed full service to and from Grenada after workers on Thursday, August 4th, voted to end a crippling week-and-a-half go-slow with the news that they would get a fraction of the $6 million EC dollars owed in overtime pay and meal allowances from as far back as 1983. But President of the Technical Allied Workers Union, Senator Chester Humphrey, has insisted that the battle is not over. He says the 500,000 EC dollars, which will be paid in tranches from the middle of August to the end of November, did not buy an end to the workers' agitation for what is owed them. The matter is going to arbitration. The Grenada government will provide 90,000 EC dollars of the $500,000 to help Liad pay the workers. Senator Humphrey said that in deciding to end the go-slow, the union and workers had taken into consideration the difficulties being experienced by the traveling public since the industrial action began last Monday. Liad had to cancel and reschedule flights to and from Grenada, which led to travel delays in the region. Grenada's Prime Minister, Tillman Thomas, said he was pleased that the industrial action had ended, but said it had done some harm to the country. He said the situation has affected Grenada's August festivals, the tourism sector and economy, at a time when the country could ill afford any disruption. Caribbean Airlines Limited said Guyana's Civil Aviation Authority will lead the investigation into the crash landing of a Boeing 737-800 that injured dozens of passengers. No one was killed. The plane, operating as flight number 523 from New York's John F. Kennedy International Airport to Georgetown, Guyana, crashed at 1:32 a.m. on July 30th, the airline said in a statement. The U.S. National Transportation Safety Board and the Trinidad and Tobago Civil Aviation Authority will assist the Guyana Aviation Authority in the investigation, the airline said at a press conference in Georgetown. Trinidad Prime Minister Kamlad Pusat Bisesa and a team traveled to Guyana on Saturday to get a first-hand view of the crash.
As a government and people, we are deeply saddened by what has happened here in Guyana. We know that the passengers and the crew would be very traumatized by what has occurred, and of course their own experiences earlier this morning, and so we empathize with them. I know that Caribbean Airlines is doing all that it can together with the government of Guyana to bring some counseling and comfort to those passengers and crew members.
She noted that on Saturday night, a CAL flight coming to Guyana had to circle for over an hour in the air before landing. The Prime Minister said she was advised this happened as visibility was low because of the rainfall. She added that a decision was taken that if the aircraft could not land safely, it would return to Trinidad. However, it was able to land.
I think we can view this as nothing short of a miracle. It is a miracle. I've seen the aircraft, I've seen what occurred there. It is a miracle that there have been no fatalities. And so we thank God for His mercies. In that regard, we thank God. At the same time, I do not think we can preempt or prejudice the investigations that are to take place. And so I will not be able to declare in any way what went wrong. Obviously something did go wrong, and the investigators will help us to determine what went wrong.
The aircraft ran off the airstrip at Chedi Jagan International Airport in Georgetown. The plane broke in two as it overshot the runway. Passengers were forced to exit the plane by either jumping or climbing to the ground. 52 people were treated at 2 hospitals. The airline said that the flight had stopped in Port of Spain, Trinidad, and was completing its journey to Georgetown when the incident occurred. The Belize government has confirmed that the British Caribbean Bank Limited has filed an application before the Trinidad-based Caribbean Court of Justice seeking an injunction to stop it from passing the Belize Constitution 9th Amendment Bill into law. In a statement, the Dean Barrow administration said that the Ashcroft Alliance's British Caribbean Bank Limited motion against the Attorney General and the Minister of Public Utilities is also seeking a declaration that the reacquisition of the telecommunications company Telemedia by the government is void. It wants the CCJ to order a return of Telemedia to the Ashcroft Alliance. The Belize government, in a statement, said this latest move is proof that the Ashcroft Alliance will stop at nothing to frustrate the democratic determination that the government and people of Belize should own the utilities. Opposition groups contend that the amendment, which they describe as by far the most radical and far-reaching, could be the beginning of a dictatorship in Belize. But the Belize government said the latest Ashcroft action reinforces the absolute need for the 9th Constitution Amendment Bill, which would enshrine Belizean public ownership of the utilities and put that ownership beyond dispute and beyond Ashcroft's legal reach. This is Walter Barrett for JTV News.